This is a series of 100 films about Japanese foods that I've eaten, and this is a film about fake beer. One of the strange things about Japanese culture is that alcohol is really cheap, but beer is not. It costs anywhere from $2.50 to $3 for a 500 milliliter can of beer, or a tall boy as they call them where I'm from. Very expensive relative to vodka and other beverages. Why? Well, they have very high beer taxes in Japan. They put a tax on hops to protect sake producers. Jidouhanbaiki. If you saw an earlier film, you'd know Nihonshu is the Japanese word for what we call sake. Nihonshu doesn't require hops, so taxes on it are lower than beer. So what the beer makers decided to do was to make beer without hops, and Happoushu was born. Look at this can of Kirin beer. This is the regular kind with the yellow stripes on it. Compare that to the Happoushu version, which costs a third less than the regular beer. Not surprisingly, Kirin is the Japanese word for giraffe. So as you can imagine, when I first came to Japan, I wasn't buying the expensive beer, I was picking the Happoushu. And I drank it once or twice during my first week, and it was fine until I got the worst hangover of my life. It might just have been me. Japan's a rich rural country, its water system is fine, the only place in Asia, besides Hong Kong and Singapore, where everybody can drink the tap water. But for some of us, there are changes that go on in one's body when you move countries. And I won't go into any detail, but I noticed things the first few weeks in Japan, and again after the first few weeks when I moved back to Canada. So my hangover at the time may have been more due to that than the Happoushu. I worked up the courage several years after this initial incident to try it again, and it wasn't that bad. It tastes like an ordinary beer. There's no particular flavor, but it's the main reason that you can get drunk on the cheap, and that's a win in my books. Jidouhanbaiki. If you go into a Japanese convenience store, you're not usually going to find any foreign beer. You'd have to go to an actual proper liquor store for that. And the beers that are offered by Japanese companies tend to be pretty bland anyway. Now, there's been a microbrew scene that's developed in the last few years, but the big players are still Sapporo, Kirin, and Asahi. And for now, lager is king, and so I would say that if you're on a tight budget, it's definitely worth checking out Happoushu. If you want to keep an eye on your wallet, just make sure to keep an eye on your waistline. No hops doesn't mean no calories. The word of the day. The word of the day is jidouhanbaiki. It means vending machine in Japanese, and it's a mouthful, but you can break it down. Jidou means automatic, hanbai means sales, and ki means machine. So jidouhanbaiki means automatic sales machine. Not so hard now, is it? So if you're thirsty, you can always say, kochira wa jidouhanbaiki arimasuka, which means, is there a vending machine here? So if you want to remember this word, feel free to watch this video 10 more times and repeat along with me, or at least that's what I do. Next time. So that's it until next time when we look at the wonders of the shrimp. So until then, sayonara.